It's hard to be great, isn't it? Because that was not great. They celebrated as if they won the championship. It was the 14th win on the season. It was a 7-game losing streak, though, Jimmy Kimmel. Stephen A., your response to Kobe's no response.
Well, first of all, I applaud Kobe Bryant for not responding. Because had it been me, it probably would have been a fight the next day when folks were in the locker room or whatever, torn rotator cuff and all. Because what I would have said on national TV is what I'm about to say right now. It was embarrassing. Nick Young embarrassed himself. Carlos Boozer sticking his head in, embarrassed himself. Jordan Hill embarrassed himself. It was a disgraceful display. They should be ashamed of themselves. As far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't even be allowed to wear a Laker uniform. They should be banned for a week as punishment. They should literally sit there, should be banned. It's just, it's one of those situations where if I'm the management, if I'm the ownership of the Los Angeles Lakers, I go back to my books and I look at my payroll and I say, I'm paying these guys for what? Because clearly you don't care about winning. You are 14-41. You lost 7 straight in 16 of your last 17 games prior to that victory. And you are sitting out there celebrating. This is exactly what Kobe was alluding to in the article, I believe it was in GQ or whatever it was that we discussed just a few days ago, when he's talking about how you might not want, you might have the wrong attitude. You might not belong here. Because whether it's me, whether it's Magic, whether it's Jordan, whether it's Bird, we want to win badly. And you got to be made from a certain cloth in order to be somebody that's in the locker room with me, dedicated the way that I'm dedicated. It's not always about winning because you can't win every year. But you got to care enough where I'm looking at you and I am convinced that if you lose, it's not something you're going to settle for. And what Nick Young and the rest of those boys, and I bring up Carlos Boozer because that's my man, Skip. I've known him for years. I love Carlos Boozer. This man went to the playoffs repeatedly in Utah. He was a big-time player for Cleveland before he left for Utah, okay? This dude was in Chicago competing for championships. And you're 14-41, and you're going to stick your head and into that little video and that spiel. You are a veteran and you actually allowed yourself to be associated with such idiocy. It's just disgraceful. And to wear a Lakers uniform, to be a part of Laker Nation, and to be 14-41, and to show that kind of celebration, all you're telling me is you don't give a damn about winning. You don't give a damn about excellence. You have no standards. You have regressed to the point of irrelevancy. And this is Laker Nation we're talking about. No wonder why Jack Nicholson is giving up his damn season ticket for the rest of the year. I think that's what he's doing. Or at least putting his tickets up for sale. It's just embarrassing. This is not indicative of what the Lakers organization is all about. Not indicative of what Laker Nation stand for. And those players should be ashamed of themselves looking like a bunch of damn idiots. I can't believe what I saw. I don't blame. Kobe Bryant was very nice. Very nice. And I'm being nice because what I want to say about him ain't suited for FCC airways. It's just embarrassing. Just go ahead, Skip. Before I say something, I'm going to read. Just go ahead.
Ms. Champion, would you like to respond before I do?
No, I agree. No, Stephen A., you're right. We were joking earlier, but it is embarrassing. It's interesting because a lot of people on social media hit me up and they said, this is why the Lakers will never be great anymore. It's truly a fall from grace. I couldn't imagine Magic Johnson doing that, James Worthy, Kareem. I couldn't see any of them.
Laughable.
It's laughable thinking that any of the greats would be celebrating, and we got 14 wins on the season. It's ridiculous.
So my take as a non-Laker fan, I found it profoundly sad, Kobe's response. I think in the first seconds as he watched the video, and I'm pretty sure it hit him cold. I don't think he was ready for it. I think it came out of left field. I think he reached for a pithy response, a funny line, some kind of line that would make the audience laugh. And I think he was just numb to what he was watching. And Stephen A., as you well know, because you know Kobe well, he's a student of basketball history, NBA history. We're talking about the Celtics were playing the Lakers at Staples. Obviously, Kobe has been part of, 2 finals himself against the Celtics. And the Lakers have a long and storied history of finals matchups, Magic versus Larry Bird,
Exactly.
and the greatness of those games against the Boston Celtics. For a while, you could make a case it was the greatest rivalry in sports. In sports. I know some of our younger viewers won't be able to sort of compute that, but trust me, it was for a while. And for Kobe to have to sit and watch that after his Lakers had won an overtime game at home for their 14th win against the equally struggling Boston Celtics, I think the gravity of it just made him go numb. He just couldn't respond for a second. And he sat back and thought, it has come to this for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how they're going to react. And I'm sure his next thought was, while the cat's away, the mice will play. And the mice were just playing and cutting up and acting a fool. All of them, including, as you point out, Boozer photobombs from below. What?
Why?
Carlos Boozer did
Why?
that? I get Nick Young, Swaggy P. I get that. A little Jordan Hill. And hey, poor Jeremy Lin, he was just kind of going along for the ride. He didn't know what to do. He was sort of the star of the game, and they're all hugging him. And
well, that's why I mentioned, you talked
Yeah.
about the rivalry. You couldn't see Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Cooper, all these guys.
Yeah.
They couldn't stand Boston Celtics.
Right.
And nothing's funny
Nothing.
about a
Hold
loss.
on.
Nothing.
But
Yeah.
nothing's funny about a
Right.
loss
Right.
or a win.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. With all due respect, it has nothing to do with Magic or any of the great players, because you don't have to be great to know how idiotic that looked. Jeremy Lin, you're right, Skip. He had nothing to do with this. And I
He's
get
happy
what you're
to be
saying,
bored.
Kerry.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, Kerry, about the great players. But there were a bunch of guys on the Lakers who weren't great that would have never acted that way, because they understand, more importantly, the tradition, and even more so than anything else. You don't have to be a member of Laker Nation to understand that you're 14-41. That you've lost 16 of your last 17 games. What the hell are you celebrating for? Like you just won a championship. What's there to celebrate? You're still 14-41. It doesn't take a Hall of Famer or a great player to realize how nonsensical and idiotic that looked. And for Carlos Boozer to be the veteran that he is, who's won his share of games, who's competed for championships, for him to allow to photobomb that, I don't get that. It makes no sense
It's
whatsoever.
ridiculous. No, you know,
It's embarrassing as far as I'm concerned.
You do
Once
wanna say
again,
it.
it's the latest indication of how Laker Nation has disintegrated before our very eyes because of Jim Buss. Yeah, you got to change everything.
Kobe said
I'm trying to
yesterday.
tell you right now, you got to fire everybody.
Kobe said
Get everybody.
yesterday
Get rid of everybody.
on Grantland, I don't know if you saw a little bit of it, he mentioned about the DNA. Before he handed the keys to the kingdom to someone else, they had to have that DNA. It's hard to find players with his DNA, and I think that was just another example of what we saw yesterday. You're right, Stephen A. Nothing was funny about it. Anybody could see that's not what you need to be doing when you got 14 wins on the season.
And you know, in the end, Kobe did say one little thing, which was also very profound. He complimented Jimmy Kimmel on his segue. He said that's a great segue because Jimmy had brought up the movie Whiplash, for which J.K. Simmons, Sunday night, won the supporting actor Oscar. And it was for playing a cruel tyrant teacher. And so Kobe got it because he's that guy. He's trying to be the J.K. Simmons for this bunch of misfits and non-Lakers, if you will.
Can I say this last comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm getting disgusted with Kobe, too. Because, you know what? Why want to be a part of this? Why allow Jim Buss and them to use you as a prop, to act like there's something about this organization that's sellable? I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm looking at Kobe. Why even want to be a part? I mean, other than the weather in Southern California, can't knock you for that, bro. But I mean, why even want to be a part of this? He shouldn't even want to. He shouldn't even want to be a part of this. Seriously.
So what's he
really
going to do?
Yeah, jump ship.
You can have my $25 million back. I'm out.
You know what? Go. Try to go play for somebody else. Waive that no trade clause. They say, well, I'm willing to leave. I want to leave and go someplace else for my final year. Why not? Jim Buss?
He's not. He answered that question yesterday.
No,
he
he's
said
not.
He's not jumping ship. So
He's told me that years. He's told me that for years. But I still disagree with him because Jim Buss is there. Ruined the man's latter part of his career. What star do you know, Skip, has been treated like this on his way out the door, where he's been given nothing to work with? Nothing. Nothing.
And Mitch Kupchak was on the record 2 days ago saying
Still,
there's no way I'm going to bring in a bunch of high-priced veterans
For Kobe's
on
last year.
at the end of the line for Kobe.
Yeah.
We're going to go young.
All right.
As
Lakers are bad. We got it. We got it. Memo's out. Tomorrow night, ESPN showcases a big NBA doubleheader. First, the Clippers face the Rockets at 8. Then it's the Spurs. We'll talk about them a little later on in the show. They're taking on the Trailblazers at 10:30. Coming up next, though, Tom Coughlin. His extension is just about finished with the Giants. Jerome Bettis joins us to share his thoughts on Tom Coughlin being in charge. That's coming up after the break.